our curator, who is responsible for all of our wonderful exhibitions that happen throughout the year. Kevin? Curator.
Thank you, thank you. And I want to first of all thank all of you for sharing your Sunday with us and being very patient. This exhibition that's on display came as a result of me being a little frustrated. And what I mean by that is, we have such a wonderful African diaspora community here in Atlanta, and we don't get together enough. I mean, there are many times we do get together, but it's it's just not enough times we are able to do so. So the idea behind this exhibition was to look for contemporary artists from Africa living here in Atlanta and exhibit their work so that they could be seen to a broader community. And it was also a matter of learning ourselves about what's going on right around the corner from us in our own neighborhoods. There are so many artists who come to this country and they'll often paint and keep doing their work, but they'll never exhibit it because they simply don't have the connections or the venues to display the work. And so the Hammonds House, being that we're not only an African American art museum and resource center, but we're also an African diaspora museum. And every chance we get, we try to show artists throughout the African diaspora and give them a chance to speak about their work. So that was the core of putting this exhibit together. Complementing the exhibit of the contemporary artists living here in Atlanta, we also have works from the permanent collection of contemporary African artists, and we have that on display as well. So bringing those two together was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. But as I was going and doing studio visits, visiting the artists, talking to them about the work, certain themes begin to come up. Certain themes around religion, the loss thereof, traditions going away, having to adapt if you're in a new environment and a new country due to commercial pressures. One artist who is unable to make it here, unfortunately, today, who was arrested in Saudi Arabia because he was painting nude figures, and he was brought up on blasphemy charges. So the idea of how religion and politics affect an artist is very important. And a lot of times we don't think about that here in a supposedly free country. We do have our censorship issues every once in a while, but to have somebody who say they can get beheaded for painting a nude figure, we don't have that issue. And so what this current panel is going to be about is talking about and celebrating the art that the artists are creating, but also talking about how their politics, how their faith, how the cultures they come from have affected their art production. I think it's going to be a very wonderful, wonderful panel. Moderating the panel will be art history professor Candy Tate, everyone, who has been a long-time supporter of the museum and his just profound knowledge on these traditions, and I couldn't think of the panel being in better hands. We also have present at the moment, Ebrima, who's the photographer in the current exhibit. We have Naplah, who just walked in. Take a deep breath, Naplah. It's all good. Now, Ebrima is from originally from Sierra Leone, but his family was from Senegambia, and that's how he identifies himself, as a Senegambian. He says, not Senegal, not Gambia, put them together because it was really one country. Don't let the colonials tell you any different. Right? Then we have Naplah, whose wonderful paintings are throughout the gallery space, from Liberia. And we have a guest artist, because one of the things I'm very sensitive to is that when I put this show together, it was very difficult to find many women artists from the continent, or actually be introduced and have contacts to those artists. Now, there was one artist who I've known for quite some time, who I was able to find and have her on the panel, and her works are on display in the back, and that's Gennet Bekele. And I've already made a promise to her and others that the next show will be predominantly women, and we got really kind of do some work, because what often happens is, due to the fact that I am a male coming into another culture, sometimes there are blockages put in the way. So I have to reach out to artists like Gennet and others to make sure we're introduced to the fabulous women artists from Africa who are living here in Atlanta. So with that, what I'm going to do is turn the panel over to Candy, and we're going to get started. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And I like that. I promised the artists that we'd have a friendly audience. And you have not disappointed me. But I'm actually a graduate student at Clark Atlanta University, and we are embarking on a year-long study of W.B. Du Bois. And and his contributions while he was at the Atlanta University Center. So it kicked off on January 20th, and so what I'd like to do to contextualize this panel is to really kind of give you more of a historian's perspective of where Du Bois was so in Africa. Many of you know, some of you don't, but he was here at Atlanta University between 1897 and 1910, and then came back from 1934 to 1944. So that was 23 years here in the Atlanta area. We know that in 1905, you've heard of the Niagara movement. Mm-hmm. So that particular movement was as a result of his disagreement with Booker T. Washington. And so he went there, wrote a manifesto about the Atlanta Compromise and this whole idea of African American leaders at that time could be, giving to the economic community like the hands, working together like the hands, but be as separate as the five fingers. So we to kind of give that as a visual. Then there's also Du Bois's involvement with the Pan-African conferences that took place over several years. So I just want, we always are like, oh, well, let's look at Africa now. There's a long history of African Americans and Africans working together or working towards global civil rights. And so the first one in 1919 was about really looking, it was World War I, and the conference and Du Bois was really exploring what was happening with African American soldiers, black soldiers, and how they were being treated in the army by their own government. In 1921, at that second conference, it was really about pressing for an Africa ruled by Africans. But the conference, or the UN, was looking at an Africa ruled with the consent of Africans. So very different meaning there. We also are very familiar with Marcus Garvey and his involvement in history. So with the UNI movement and the Back to Africa. So here's another African personality that is saying we want to go back to Africa. So we know that we are not a monolith as a people. There were different historians, historical figures that came along that had different positions on what to do about, quote unquote, this Negro problem is how it was really coined at the time. So Marcus Garvey was pushing for a Back to Africa movement and looked at Liberia, as the place to go. But it was Du Bois's disagreement with Garvey was not that it would be, again, an Africa ruled by Africans, but this fact that it was really what he was pushing, it was an Africa ruled by African Americans. So you're basically, pushing one colonial power aside for another power. And that's really not what Du Bois wanted. So just kind of moving forward, what I'd love to do is just to tell you about Du Bois and his involvement with NAACP, and what we always remember is the UN, United Nations creation, and him speaking before the UN about really pressing for racial equality and an end to the colonial era. So for Du Bois, it's very interesting, and I'm excited about, I haven't read a lot. I've read, the key books, but as you get to know him more, you see that he was really someone who stepped back and looked at, we think of it as a dynamic of white and black, but it was not that for him. He was looking at people of color around the world. So people from India, China, all the repressed colors of the world, in these colonial powers, and how he could press for their civil rights. And that's really what he was about. And kind of lastly, we know that he ended his life, he lived a very long time, so he was 95 years old, but when he expatriated to Ghana. But what we do know is that the government from that time in 1945 onward really kind of kept an eye on him, as they did with Martin Luther King and many other leaders. And there was a point in time where they actually took his passport, so that he was not able, he was invited by Nkrumah to Africa for the independence in 1957, but the government still had his passport, and he wasn't able to go until 1960. So just kind of giving you some historic markers, again, we can frame this, and also it might be, just new information for our artists on the panel as well, is kind of how America has been involved with Africa. And then lastly, when we think, when we're talking about this panel, we're saying politics, but also religion. And so Du Bois really considered himself, as he said, a free thinker. He really looked at the church as one of the most racist institutions that exists. And we always think of Sundays being the most segregated time in Atlanta. But the churches were not the place where many of his beliefs could be espoused. So he did not align himself with any particular religion. So that kind of gives us a kind of an overview. And then I just want to put in a small plug. I brought flyers on the Clark Atlanta Conference and the list of topics that we're going to do on a monthly basis. And in February 2013, that's February 20th, is when we'll actually have the national conference. So we're accepting papers. So our scholars that are in the audience that want to submit a paper, we're accepting papers at Clark Atlanta. So now that you've gotten this kind of historical context, let's get into some of the meat of this and get the artist involved. And let's, some of the things we want to talk about are really the traditional cultures and religious practices and how they affected your aesthetic production, i.e. your artwork. So if you, let's start to my left, in Naplah, and if you'll kind of share with our audience some of the religion and political things that happened in Liberia that affected your artwork.
Actually, there were stories been told to me by my dad. And, I'm a Catholic, we are Catholic. It's not that I changed to be a Catholic, no. We are Catholic brought up, my mom and dad Catholic. But then I asked my dad about the Catholic Church, and he went on to explain to me that when the Catholic first came to Monrovia, they were refused entry. They were denied, so they had to go back. So I asked him why they denied it. And then he said that the American Liberians were not allowed Catholic in the country. But they were all white people, we know that. So then it came the second time. When it came the second time, he told them, say, okay, well, we will accept you, but you have to go in the hinterland. You have to go back places like, we got a place called Southtown, we got Grand Cru, and you go to Baza County. We got counties in Liberia, so that you know that. So they went to these places, they were to build churches. So my dad is from Southtown, he's from Grand Cru. So that's how we became Catholic. And then I asked him about Sino County. He said no, they didn't allow them in Sino County. That's why you find most of the churches from Sino happen to be the Methodist, the Presbyterian, and a lot of other churches. So, but he couldn't explain to me. But as time went on, I got to understand that the American Liberians were not allowed the Catholic for so many reasons. Maybe because they were white people and the American Liberians were free slaves, and then they saw again the influx of white people coming into Monrovia after the free slaves had gone to Africa. So here again we got white people coming and trying to build church and build, because after church then you got schools. So and exactly that's what happened in Sino. So when they got there, when they got to Sino and they got to the, not Sino, they got to Sastown and they got to the other areas where they were allowed entry, they began to build schools, they build churches and all that. So a lot of the people from where my dad and mom came from, they're all Catholic, a lot of us Catholic. So that's how I got into Catholic schools. That's how I got into Catholic schools, and then Catholic church, and all that went on. So with respect to the arts, the art is not encouraged in my country. A lot of schools will not teach arts because they believe it's something, it's not academic, it's like extracurricular. So an extracurriculum, a lot of African parents believe that the students should be strictly academic and extracurriculum with the students' time. But the Catholic schools still went on to teach extracurriculum. But if you went to public schools, extracurriculum weren't taught in Catholic schools. So a lot of the other schools didn't teach extracurriculum, but the Catholic schools taught extracurriculum. So that's how I became an artist, because the practice was also in the schools, in Catholic schools. That's how I came up with V1.
Just share with them about the drawing and how you then went from the comic book.
Oh, okay, yeah. So actually, at the time, I had a brother. I didn't know he was my cousin because I was small. He way younger, older than me, so I told him to be my brother. But as I get to understand, I get to learn, I got to know he was my cousin. So we stayed, you know, for a long time together until I got to know that. Okay, yeah, so he did a lot of drawings. Back in the 60s, they were like superhero. That's what he drew. He drew a lot of superheroes. The Samson, because those were the people at the time, Samson, Goliath, and all that. That's what he drew. So at a certain time, I was watching drawing, and then I wanted to do singing. So I started following footsteps. I copied a lot of his work. I traced his work. And then I remember one time I even traced a picture of the president. I took my sheet, I put it on top of the copybook. Back in Africa, when you president, your name, your picture is just on all the copybooks. There's no other picture but the president picture. You open your copybook. So I traced the president picture, and I was told that, oh, you will go to jail. You will go to jail. So I got scared. I kept the picture. I was afraid. Just the drawing of the president picture, I didn't hurt anything. So I was scared. I got discouraged, and I stopped drawing the president. I stopped tracing the president picture. So, but then I followed my brother at the time, followed his work, copied a lot of his work. Well, after a certain time, I got interested in comic magazines, so I would buy a bunch of comic magazines. I wasn't working at the time, but my dad gave me like 10 cents, 15 cents to go to school. That was a lot of money at the time to take to school. So I would save my money and buy my comic books. My friends would laugh because we go for recess. I got nothing to purchase, nothing to eat. All I had was a comic magazine. So what I did was I made a replica of the comic books that I used to buy. I would open a comic page, I copy picture for picture for picture all the comic magazines that I had. So people would come and look at my work and be like, wow, you doing this? So I didn't know what I was doing at the time, you know. But as time went on, I stopped copying the comic book. I started making my own comic. Then there were shows that came in our country like James West, Wild Wild West, Cheyenne, Black Master Son. So our country is kind of different from other African countries. These are things that are near me. These are things that were in our society. But if you went to Ghana, the Ivory Coast, and other countries, they got their culture there, and you know things were taught and things were seen from what they do in the country. But for us, there was a very high influence of the the American attitude in our country. So our movies, our American movies, everything you see on TV was Americanized and just like that. So I was able to copy all my comic books. So after I did that, at a certain point, I was able to make my own comic. The first comic book I made was Wild Wild West. The only regret I get today, I continue to say, is I never kept the comic book because I want to look at where I am to see what I did at the time. What I was doing, I was selling my comic books 20 cents to my friends. They would buy, but that was a lot of money though for me. 20 cents. I was selling my comic books 20 cents. Yeah. So over the period, then came in the 70s, the psychedelic era. When the psychedelic era came, I started making black light posters. There were posters that came in my country, black light, you know, you got all these fancy fluorescent color posters. I started making them. But this time I'm selling the fluorescent color poster $1. So instead of people going to the store to buy these posters, $7, $8, they would come over to me. Naplah, I saw this poster. There was a place called the Big Apple Underground. It was a record store. So what they were doing at the time, they would go to the Big Apple Underground, see a particular poster, and come and tell me about it. Then I would go to the Big Apple Underground, take a look at the poster, and then go home and do the same poster for them. And I get $1. I get $1 for doing the poster. So over a period, you know, that's how I became one of the illustrators that the best illustrator for my country because I won an award for illustrating. And that's how I started painting, and and I got to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
So next we have Ebrima Bob.
Okay. All right, Bismillah. It's nice seeing everybody today. It's a beautiful day in Atlanta. Nice and sunny in January. We're very thankful. And for y'all to be here with us today. Yes. But say religion and art. I think I will start previously before me. Maybe that way it'll be a little more historic as far as I understand and learn from my elders. And their encounters with foreigners or people from somewhere else. Let's see. I'll give the example of Sheikh Ahmed Bamba, who was a Sufi elder in Senegal, West Africa. And he had an encounter with the French. And the French were back in Senegal. I think Bamba was here in the 1800s. And at the same time, the French had a goal to occupy and colonize Senegal. But then the region of Senegal, everybody at the time was visiting Sheikh Ahmed Bamba for spiritual teachings and guidance, or for substance to enhance and better their lifestyle. Because once you are aware and learn something from the revealing presence, you know, you'll be able to also enhance your life. And so these people understood that, so they all went and visited this elder for those teachings. And with that, they took their belongings also to go see him. They would take crops that they cultivated in the fields, which a lot would include rice, maize, peanut, whatever they had cultivated from these fields, and or whatever wealth that they had gathered aside in exchange for this spiritual wisdom that they are receiving from one of their own kind, who is teaching them in the tongue that which they comprehend. And so the French actually felt bad about that, because, like I say, they're trying to colonize these people. And so everybody's going to the elder. They felt like they needed the people more than the elder does. It's politics. The more votes you got, you know, the better place you stand. Okay, so because of this, the French encounter hard times trying to reach these people that they're trying to convert or turn into something else. And because of that, they had to exile Sheikh Ahmed Bamba and try all kinds of stuff on him, which include try to kill him for 7 years. They even appoint people that all they are taught and thinking for the entire 7 years is to think how to eradicate this man and kill him. And so they have put him in an oven, try to shoot him with a cannon, guns. None of that prosper against him because of through his spiritual beliefs and studies and practice. So his vibration was a little higher or more higher than the French at the time. And so couldn't do nothing to him really for 7 years. You know, exiled him, did everything that in their powers that they could. And at the end of the day, they had to just bow down, ask for forgiveness and initiation. And a lot of this stuff is documented by the French themselves. And that's one of the little credits I'll give to France and French people for being able to honestly document some of the things that they witnessed that we could share here today. And yeah, and so when they ask him for forgiveness and initiation, they also, and the disciples looking at each other, what are you going to do? What, these people, they made him go through all this and that. But he ended up giving them initiation. And so they asked him, now what are we going to do with the guns? Again, he told them, he said, you must go melt that metal and turn the metal into hoes and till the soil. You see, and plant food. I see, so to me, life in itself is art. Existing in itself is art. Everything that we do is art. So I got the topics late this morning, And I had to sit down and try to, like, from my own instincts and perspective and understanding, and write something together to read at a day like this today. And so when I looked at the meaning of contemporary, because for me, a lot of the things I do with my instinct. I never learned how to take pictures. My school, I didn't go to college, or I didn't further my education like some of my family members did. But also, I do know that life in itself is a university, and I could be taught by life. Again, like I say, the moment itself is very revealing. So I said, okay, the definition for contemporary, which means happening, existing, living, or coming into being during the same period of time, which to me, I will consider that to be the moment, which is every ever revealing, fulfilling, and promising. The moment is always and ever revealing, fulfilling, promising, in which every second of the moment is also simultaneously, instantaneously, a process is also taking place, and which in itself is very revealing and reinventing this process that's taking place. It's revealing and it reinvent itself as it occurs, which allow us to be inspired and to be able to explore and create and provide. In that same manner is how we were able to turn into using stones as tools. Sharpening of the stone and use it as knife and cut stuff and do all other stuff from our instincts. So really, you cannot separate with it constellation. We're able to read the stars. We're able to use wood for firewood. We're able to do all of these things. This is life. This is our everyday existence. This is art. And so you cannot really separate art from our life, or art from spirituality, or politics, or religion, because everyday life, this is art right here. I see the art of listening right now. So everything in life is art. You can't separate it. And so when Satan people came to experience with us, and with the intention of teaching us art, it was already late for them, because we were already using our hands in everything that we do. So in return, I think we expose art to a whole lot of people, and to show them how to work with their hands, how to, how to provide for themselves. And also, when we experience religion, I don't think it banned or put a taboo on a lot of stuff. It's just like somebody you introduce something to, and now they are picking. Okay, this I can relate to. You copy that. This one I can't relate to. You X that. You see? So you keep on going. So you take what you want, and what you don't comprehend, that one is, okay, that's taboo. That's primitive. That's just because you don't understand it. Right. But so what that also forced is that it also forced art to be diverse. It also forced the artist to be inspired, because again, life is art. If I can't paint a picture for you, I will turn around and make my art in the writing form. But I'm going to communicate with you in some kind of form or fashion, manner. Whether it be an expression of the hand, or some of us will paint pictures. And so people could relate to that. Some people could write, and people could relate to that. But whatever you do, you make sure it's pure. And this is from within your instinct, your inside. And people will see that purity to even be inspired from your work.
Ebrima, your body of work is called street journalism.
Yes, correct.
And so we see your photographs and you also do videography.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
bring us, how do all of the politics and religion have an impact on your photography and videography, your street journalism?
Well, thank you for asking me that question, which I think is it's a great question to me because it's very relevant in my life and the time that I am right now. I never chose to be a journalist. Matter of fact, I was just traveling and learn from my experiences and have regular plans and ideas like everybody else. But also my travel forces me, places that I went and saw the people, the way they lived and the problems that we encountering, it forces me to pick up a camera and start documenting some of these stuff that I experience and see. Because, for example, coming from home, we went to school. Our parents were able to spend their last dime. It cost them arm and a leg, send us to school. And so we went to school, you know, we learned about a lot of stuff, capitalism and European history, and our history was very brief. We were told that our people were taken away from here, and they were put on ships through the Atlantic Ocean, this and that, and that was that. So, but then when some of us travel and our eyes get open to seeing people that look just like you, sound just like you, you know what I'm saying? These are your family that you left behind, but you're seeing them over here too. But then the few that you saw on TV, you see them doing okay in fine vehicles and fine jewelry. So in your mind, everybody's doing okay. Right, but then turn around, not really. It's just few of us doing okay. So that had to force me to share some of this experience that I had, not only with the people here, but also with the people back home. So also they could be educated as I was over here. You know, that way we'll be aware of us being here, and our people over there will be in kind of like a surprise form of manner, they're not knowing. So I advise everybody to get into this documentation thing and document some of these things and share some of these things. That way we could be aware of each other, because first we got to be aware of each other. It's very important. We are scattered all over the planet going through the same problem. Everywhere we went, we found us to be in the same situation. And so this is the reason why, for us, we got to be aware of this and use that to bring us together through the materials of intellectual properties too. Maybe books, maybe videos, maybe craft, whatever it might be. But it's supposed to be every single one of us responsibility of reimagining our life. Like the sister said out of Detroit. That must be our reason of even living right now, because we came from the best people of the planet.
Yes. Yes.
And so we can't afford to go out like this.
That's right.
I'm going to get to Gennet in just a second, but Ebrima's being very modest. I want you to share with our audience about your documentary, Food, Shelter, and Clothing. Because you've been talking generally, but specifically, what did you do? What did you go out and see, and how did you use your artwork to get it done?
Well, I'm glad, again, that, you know, somebody's been interviewing the journalists. I'm always doing the interview. And today, specifically, I came to speak on behalf of Food, Clothing, and Shelter. Because last time I was here, it was great. It was a full house just like this. And the audience, I mean, it's a family reunion when we're able to meet and exchange insights. But last time I was here, I was so focused on the message, I forget to talk about books that I had and projects that I'm working on. And again, you know, I choose to do these things by myself. I didn't choose, my ancestors chose me to do it.
Yes.
And because of that, they took everything from me that would make me stay here and do the job, whether I like it or not.
Amen.
Right. Until it's done, then they're going to deploy me somewhere else. But for right now, I got to be right here. And it's been a process. But Food, Clothing, and Shelter is a documentary that I started almost 10 years ago. And that started off with a day service that I did with a sister who lived downtown, and I went visiting her, and downstairs from where she lived, they were feeding people. She said, yo, today's Sunday, they're feeding folks over here. You might want to come with me, maybe take a few pictures. I said, okay. We went downstairs and went to this place, Broad Street and Peach Street, a lot of people. I mean, it was like half of downtown Atlanta was out there. And we over there serving food, and I'm taking a few pictures and everything. But after that day, I went home, and I'm looking at all these pictures I took, and I was like, wait a minute. Our people look like they just got over here after 400 years. Mom is out there, Pops is out there, sister, everybody. And we see it every day, every day. And what? You're gonna tell me everybody's on drugs? Well, that's poor for Atlanta. Then half of Atlanta is on drugs. That's not it. Because guess what? In some of Dr. King's speech, he said, how are you gonna free us and not free us with land?
That's right.
You free us to just drive us into starvation and homelessness and all of that. And so when you see them folks out there on the street, remember that, because those people they could be productive right now.
Yeah.
But ever since we've been told so, quote unquote, we've been free, we dropped everything. We dropped the tools. We never want to pick up a stick again. And so we got cut off from our food source, our life source.
Yes.
We were not supposed to farm food for nobody, for anybody to benefit from that food but us.
Yes.
After we've been told we've been free, we still have to do what we could do better than anybody on this planet. It's, matter of fact, the reason why some of us was brought over here is to attend to that land. For some people that was lazy, didn't know how to do it. They had to bring us over here, and we did it. And they inflicted pain on us. And because of that, we turn our back from what we know best. And it's the reason why we are hungry today. The same thing happened to us in Africa, with us being sent to school. Grandma had this farm, half of a football field and a half, attended all by herself. And she showed me how to be a man, how to work hard. I wish I'd give those props to my pops, but unfortunately Pop was a macho. And Grandma, she stick with the farm and her prayer, her spirituality. And her farm was her art. And so she grew everything. And she started putting crops to the roof, maize, corn, you name it. And so her grandkids were safe from hunger, secure from hunger. But until she passed away, and she sent her kids to school, and the kids got high school diplomas, and infrastructure and jobs were not prepared for us, now this is why there's starvation in Africa. And Africans have been put on the best part of the land, where everything grows. So when I saw my people out on the street, half of them are here unproductive, I had to make a film like that. It's time for us to go back to our ancestral wisdom, because they were never homeless and they were never hungry. But today, you know, it's like we totally skip our path and take on some other path, and it's a whole lot of grief and hunger and drought and you name it, which we are better off. We're better than all of that. And sooner or later, all of that will change. It's our time right now. And that's what inspires Food, Clothing, and Shelter. And I sponsor it all by myself and the Most High, the Creator, Allah. I got books right here. I got this book called The Spirit of Any Means. This is some of the fun cultural things that I experienced right here when I lived in the West End, which is the annual Malcolm X Festival that I extensively document with photographs and complement the pictures with Malcolm X quotes. Because again, no matter how much we are economically successful or politically successful, like the elders say, and our people are not culturally successful, again, it's just like the tree without the roots, like Marcus Garvey said. Right, so that's why we gotta document all the cultural activities that we are involved, preserve our culture, teach the children their culture, their roots. The people are over there in Africa busy bleaching. The people over here are busy putting all kinds of stuff in their head over here, from everywhere else but from us. So it's time for us to look within ourselves. We've been looking from everywhere else. Right.
Tell us a little bit about you, and again, we were talking about religion and politics and how that's
Okay.
had an impact on your art, but tell us about you.
I never speak sitting because I like to move. It is okay. It is okay. But thank you. It is okay. I thank God for giving me the opportunity to be here,
Yes, ma'am.
and I thank Hammonds House Museum and the staff to let me be here. And most of all, you beautiful people, you to make an effort to be here. I thank you on behalf of Hammonds House. And my name is Gennet Bekele, and I'm from Ethiopia. I grew up in Ethiopia, and I finished high school there. And I attended Ethiopian Airlines to be a flight attendant. So that means I had a chance to go to almost all over Europe. And I started my journey early on. As soon as I finished high school, I wanted to join Ethiopian Airlines since I was in 10th grade. They keep pushing me. They say, you too young, go. So finally my dream happened. I worked, but I didn't stay there. I like to move, as I told you. I didn't stay there but 6 months. I got bored. I've seen every part of Europe. I said, well, now it's time for education. I wasn't a very serious student in high school. So I decided to come here for further education, and my first home was Philadelphia. So I was in Philly, yours too? Okay. I was in Philly, and I was with a family who taught at Temple University. So I had a chance to enjoy Philly, and then I moved to Norfolk because a friend of mine moved there. I'm not gonna bore you with my story a lot, but I'll try to finish it as soon as possible. And then in Norfolk, I joined Norfolk State, but I want you people to laugh a little bit. But most of us foreigners, when we come here, we have a little language barrier. Maybe we still do, I don't know. But anyhow, when I first came to Philly, everybody said, I'll see you later. And I say, I sit and wait for them. Later is later. In my country, when they say, I'll see you later, they see you the same day. Or either we are specific. We'll say, I'll see you tomorrow. And then I'll wait tomorrow. Right. Monday, Tuesday, Sunday. So that's one of the things. But I don't know. Somebody was supposed to come here, but I have his permission to tell this story. One more joke. It's not a joke, it's reality, but I'm turning it into joke because I want you to laugh a little bit. A friend of mine, he got accepted at Norfolk State. This is how he got accepted. Filled out the application form. He said he plays football. So, well, we got a football player, we have to accept him. And they accepted him. When he got there, he got to the field, and he was short. I'm glad he's not, I have to describe him, but he's not, but he's short, he's not fit for football. So the coach came and said, what do you play? I say, I thought it is soccer, because it makes sense. It is a ball and a foot. So we call it football. So, okay, later for the joke. Okay, I'm going to be serious now. I lived everywhere, so I'm going to mention the places I lived. You already know two states, of course, Philadelphia, Norfolk, and then I moved to Newton Center, Massachusetts, because of school. I'll tell you why. And Washington, D.C., because of school. I went to Howard. Jackson. Okay. I went to Howard. In Jackson State, I went to graduate school there. And I moved to New York, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Miami, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Los Angeles, of course. Anybody from Los Angeles? All right. I used to live in Wilshire area. Okay. Okay, we'll talk. And finally, here I am in Atlanta. This is my third time moving to Atlanta. So, because of that, okay, I'm gonna speak back and forth about my artwork and everything. If somebody wants to pass this, I'm gonna talk about that painting. Thank you. You see right there? You say, why? I'm sure you're wondering, why is she moving to a lot of places? Because there is a bird in me. There was, not anymore. I've been here in Atlanta for 12 years now. I work for Atlanta Public School as a substitute teacher. So finally, okay, that piece of artwork everything is explained. I know most of us don't like to read, but we have to read today. So I explained everything about that piece. And this one I'm gonna explain next. Okay. I'm a painter, I do printmaking, I do ceramics, and sculpture like this, and I'm a welder also. I do welding. And I write children's book, and it's right here. It's on Amazon.com if you are interested, and it is for sale. I'm donating all this for Hammonds House Museum. The price, I'll talk to them, whatever price they wanna sell it. Okay, art. Okay, I'm gonna talk about my art. I said, why is she talking about where is she going and not talk about her artwork? So I'm a poet also, I forgot. And I teach and as a substitute teacher. Okay, I'm gonna go to art now. First of all, I have to tell you, moving to all these states and everything, maybe some of you haven't been in some part, I don't know yet, but I've been everywhere. And I have to pin myself down now and do work, because art to me is art makes me exhale. When I'm sad, I exhale through my art. I cry through my art. I sweat through my art. You name it, and I'll be joyful through my art and writings. And for example, if somebody died, I'm not going to sit around and cry. I used to do that. I write about them. I sit and do poetry, and I end up, everybody, whenever somebody died in our community, they call me and say, can you write a poem for us? So I'm privileged to do that, because you exhale through different, but it is my joy that I learned art and writing both. So let me tell you about my education a little bit. I went to Norfolk State, and I took some courses just to experience what kind of American system, the educational system. I went there, and then I applied for a lot of universities, 20, 25, you name it. I got accepted at Mount Ida Junior College, studied interior designing for 2 years. I got my associate. I moved to Howard. My sister was studying architect at Howard, and she talked me into staying Howard, and Howard is my favorite. It's just my home. Away from home, Washington and Howard, they are my home because I started everything there. So at Howard, I studied experimental studio. While I am at Howard, I have to thank my, I don't know, maybe, this world is small. It's not as big as we think. Do you know anybody by the name of Ed Love? You do, see? Yes. He was my teacher, and everybody has a teacher. You remember what they did for you. He was like, I used to have a hard time, like, if I do sculpture, I used to say, I don't want to talk about that. But he knows how hard I work, and he fixes me tea, and he let me finish Elizabeth Catlett's Seated Lady Live. He chose me, and he always tells me, you're great. He is the one who motivated me to do. I'm not going to give him all the credit to be who I am, but he helped me around. That's one teacher. There are a few, but I'm not going to spend my time there. I have art shows in different places. Oh yeah, I went to Jackson State and I got my master. I went back to Howard. I cannot stay at one place. I went back to Howard and joined African Studies for PhD program, and my minor was international law. And then again, I didn't do my dissertation because I had to move again. So I had art shows in different places. It is a lot. I cannot go through the whole thing. I hope I haven't finished my minutes. Okay. I had art shows in Bekele Library. I'm going to just mention a few here in Atlanta. City Hall East, work of our hand. That is in Atlanta, but I gave a show in Miami also a long time ago, for Haitian refugees to help their community. I gave an art show, and I had a mural in Miami. That project was funded by Tate County. Of all these art shows, which one touched my heart? Do you want to know? The art show I had at Pascal's. Do you know Pascal's Motor Hotel? I'm sure all of you know. You know why it touched my heart? When I was a little girl, I used to learn about Martin Luther King. And I always wanted, if I am emotional, forgive me, I always wanted to see him alive. I always wanted to see him alive. But unfortunately, I didn't, because he was just on my mind all the time while I was in high school. But when I got here, he was gone. But his spirit is with us. What a genius, what a great man. Oh, I bow for him. I'm sure he will see me. And the two other leaders, I don't know if I can say Mother Teresa is a leader, and Nelson Mandela. I'm sure pray for me so I can see him, because that's one person I really want to see alive. I hope that will happen. I want to speak about Martin Luther King a little more, because I get emotional, but I'm going to speak. In case if I cry, forgive me. He lived for others. He was selfless. These three leaders, the Mandela, him, and of course Mother Teresa, her purpose was a little different than them. They all lived for others, for those who are poor, powerless, and mostly voiceless. So, I don't know what to say, but if we go to heaven and see him, I really want to thank him, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been here. Maybe you wouldn't have been here either. So I thank him, and I will stop about him. And I don't know if I miss anything, but since I told you about my art, and this is when I was a child, me and a friend of mine ran to see whom the moon would follow. The moon followed both of us. So I got mad and hit her. It's a real story. I got mad. Until these days, I don't see why people would lie. So I thought she lied, because unless somebody put a gun on you, I mean, there is no need to lie. So her mom came, told my family that I hit her. So I was in big trouble then at home, and this is how this book came into life. So you see us standing in front of the moon, but the whole story is in there. And
Share with them about the writing that's on the writing, the script, your native script that's on the.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. This is a bilingual children's book. It is on Amazon also, if you are interested. So this is the Moon Fulsas, but this is Charaka Atalaiwa. It's in my language. I have time.
We want to make sure we get everybody. We've gotten everyone
Okay.
with their initial introductions of their life and experiences and colonialism and its impact, religion and politics. What we really want to do is kind of open up and now talk a little bit more specifically about your art that's here in the museum, and how your images that are in the artwork reflect this tradition of Africa and what you've produced here. So what you're trying to get across to your audience. I think of Naplah, I see still lives with African masks versus normal still lives that we think of. European nice still lives have fruit and trees and grapes. So tell us a little bit about your selection of what you put in your artwork.
Excuse me. Well, actually, I'm going to start from here. The pictures over there, the one right here, where you see the women gathered. There came a time in my country when the confusion broke. It started in 1990. There was always rumors of people overthrowing the president and all that, and there was no place to go, no place to run, no place to hide. Liberia's never been placed in such a situation before. We haven't had a civil war. That's why there have been war that's started in the city, and it wasn't as big as the one then. Actually, the generation then never had a civil war. So the one that was coming was confusing. We didn't know what to do. So most of the time, women would gather, and the little information you get from your friend, the little information you get from here, there, everywhere, you would gather at the well, maybe at a place where they go to wash clothes, and these women would begin to talk about the Civil War, to talk about what they're going to do, because they got children, they can't run, there's nowhere to go, just like I said before. So that's what inspired the picture you see over there, where women gather and they're talking about the Liberian civil conflict, or what do they do now. Liberia, unlike other West African countries, we never went out. This Civil War was the first time we went out of Liberia. This Civil War was, if you see a Liberian coming to America in the 70s, he's coming to school. After school, he goes back. One of the reasons why a lot of people come to America at the time in the 70s that I know of is to come to school, master program or other programs. But immediately after that, Liberians go back. So surprisingly, a lot of people don't know Liberians. They don't know us. I asked American, have you heard of a country called Liberia? Excuse me. They don't know. But this is a country that was chosen as a place for the refugees. They refer to the slaves that went back home as refugees. People were caught on high sea carrying slaves, bringing slaves to America, and they say, no, turn this boat back wherever the slaves came from, whether they took them from Sierra Leone, they took them from Guinea, they took them from anywhere, they say, take them to the tiny country over there, Liberia. At the time it was a Commonwealth, and people would take the slaves back to Liberia, so it was referred to as the refuge for slaves. So there were people there called refugees at the time. So if we went out of Liberia, people see us differently. A lot of people see Liberians differently. They see us, trust me, I'm telling you, they see us as Americans. We're not Americans. Yeah. They see us as Americans. I remember when Jimmy Carter was planning to free the hostages in, I think, Iran. Liberians were arrested in the university. They took them for Americans. Yeah, Liberians were arrested in the university. They took them for Americans. Yeah. And they had to show passport and stuff, and then they left the Liberians. So the work over there is a result of the Liberian civil conflict. People discussing, Liberians don't know what to do, where to go. One of the big reasons why we're not known outside is because everybody come out to get the US dollar. But in my country, the US dollar is the currency for exchange. It is only now, after the civil conflict, that we were able to make our own money, because over the years we were fooled. We didn't know. We thought the US dollar was it. We didn't know that if the white man was leaving, he's going to leave with the US dollar. He's going to leave with the money. We didn't know. We didn't know if the Nigerian was leaving, if they were leaving, they would leave with the US dollar. If the Ghanaians were leaving, because all these people, they refer to Liberia as small America in Africa, so they came over. Yeah, a lot of people, it was just a work of short order for you to leave Liberia and come to America. A lot of people did that. They went to Liberia, get a Liberian passport, and then they come to the States. But Liberians wouldn't come to the States. Liberians would stay in Liberia because they had everything. We were content right there. So I'm only saying that to say that was, the work over there is the result of the civil conflict and Native women discussing what to do. So it's called, if I see, the name might be discussion, women discussion, or sitting place, one of them. Okay, the other one, the one next to it, the little one over there. Discussion. Yeah, all right, thank you.
Which one, this one right here?
No, the next one.
This one?
No, that one, the one in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got a lot of black and white. It's like back in the, what I'm doing now is like back in the village where the chief got so many wives, got so many children all over the place. He doesn't know the names of the children. So
your children.
So I got so many black and white. Kelvin will attest to that. He's been looking at my black and white. He said, look, Naplah, you got to do something about these black and white. Don't just keep them. All right. The one in the middle there, it's farm to market road. Farm to market road. Most of the time on Saturday, there's an influx of people who go and so, people coming back here, people going to and fro on Market Road. That's what that one is. The one in the corner over there is it's called Dry Rice Market, or Rice Market, or Market. The one way in the corner. Okay. And there's something Africans who are secular Liberia, there's something we're experiencing in America here. In America, Liberians, we cook rice and a little fish here in America because we want to do it. But back home in Liberia, when the Civil War hit, things went bad, and you got nothing, you got no choice. Sometimes we just eat dry rice every day. So as a result, there was a market created called dry rice market. So you go to that market, you buy your rice, you buy a little fish, and that's what you're going to have. That's what you and your kids going to have. But here in America, the thing is, when my daughter came to the States, after I've been here for about 4 years, I brought my daughter over. She, I think about 2 weeks, she called me and said, it's hard to eat here. So I said, why? She said, I'm not really hungry, but I just got to eat. I said, what do you mean you're not hungry? She said, there's food all over the place. Excuse me. Yeah, that's what she said. She said there's food all over the place. Well, unlike home, where we got dry rice market over there, you have to eat that dry rice every day during the civil conflict. So that's what we went through. The two pieces in the corner, yeah, I think it's Egziaber, right? I think Egziaber phase 1 and Egziaber phase 2. Well, I chose the name Egziaber. Some friend of mine came from, I think he's from Senegal, but he went home and what he did was he had a little boutique where he sell clothes and, he sell different, he was mixing at the time it was hard to get a jeans trouser, but we weren't calling them jeans in the early 70s, we were calling them dungaree. It was hard to get dungaree clothes. So what he did was he took all of the dungaree and stuff he was selling, he put them among the artifacts, the mask and all that. But that's not what the drawing depicts over there. But every time he went to his store and opened the door, he said, welcome to Egziaber phase 1. And then there's another store down the road. If you went there, he said, his brother was there. His brother said, welcome to Egziaber phase 2. So in the area, if you were wearing a shirt or a trouser, you didn't buy it from Egziaber. But every time your friend asked you, you say, this is from Egziaber phase 1. So everybody, took the name Egziaber from this guy from Senegal. So I just thought about the name Egziaber. And then I give it to my work, Egziaber phase 1, Egziaber phase 2. Yes. But actually, it is a conglomeration of all the different African marks and other things that I put together in the picture. So I call phase 1 and phase 2.
Now, Naplah, you have several pieces that have titles such as, Pounding the Rice. I said Praise and Song Dance. I saw Fishing Villages upstairs. Now, the ones that are the Sunday Girls, the San Girls, the Mandingo, and then the Soul of the Ancestors. Kind of tell us about those. Yeah,
Sender Girls, actually, the Sender thing has sparked a lot of confusion all over the world. It got to do with women in circumcision group. But that is the part that is known. The other part is not known, which is women. The men group is called Poro, and the women group is called Sandy. Okay, now these are some of the reasons why there were confusion over the years between Americo-Liberians and the natives. Americo-Liberians felt at the time that the natives were practicing witchcraft and, praying for their mask and all that, so they wanted to change it. So over the years, there was always confusion, a lot of fights. Even up to now, that was some of what sparked the Liberian civil conflict that started sometime in the 80s, and then it went down, and then it started again in the 90s, driving all of us Liberians out of the country. Okay, the Senegals, you only know about the part that talks about circumcision, but actually this is where women go. It's like a school, but the difference is that it's not in a building, it's in the bush. Everything there is not made from any material from the city. Everything there is made from the bush. The houses they built from palm twigs, branches from trees. And women go in there, they stay as long as maybe 3 to 4 months. They take away your daughter. Your daughter got to go there. If you within that tribe, you got to go there. Because if you don't go there, they see you as an outcast, not a part of the society. That's how they see them. But there's only one group that got no push. That's not because I'm from that group, that's the crewmen. The crewmen, crew women. We don't have that kind of society. Okay, but send the girls, they go in the bush, they open the school, the women are taught, this is the good part of it, that you don't know. They are taught how to take care of their men. They teach them how to be women, how to respect the men, how to take care of the men during the time of a family, when they're building their family. That's the good part of it. Men, the same thing. Men go in the bush, except the circumcision practice is different. What they do, they mark the men on their back, your back. They make marks on your back, make long mark on your back. So you got to be a part of this tribe. You got to be a part of this tribe before you can go in the bush to be a part of the poro or to be a part of the Senate. So what you see over there, so when your daughters graduate, they bring out the best. Everything you got in your trunk, be it gold, everything, your expensive cloth is what you put on your daughter because you know she's ready for life. Yeah, that's the Senate. Well, Mandingo men at the time, what I've been told, my father told me Mandingo men were traders. They come from North Africa, come down, and they said from that time, long time ago, trading, come to Liberia, go back to Guinea, go to North Africa, come back. They've had children over the years. That have been some of the confusion in my country. Liberians are saying the Mandingos are not a tribe in Liberia. The Mandingo came from Guinea. The Mandingos are saying they are a part of Liberia. They've been there because it's only their children now. It's their children. So they're saying they are a part of Liberia. Liberians are saying, no, you're not a part of here. You're coming from Guinea. But then when Liberians travel to Guinea, they see the same Mandingo man who's in Liberia. He's in Guinea. He's claiming citizenship. He got properties in Guinea. He's known as citizen in Guinea, and then when he comes to Liberia, he's known as a citizen in Liberia. There have been a confusion over the years, but that's not what inspired the drawing. Actually, the story was told that these are beautiful, dark, handsome men, tall. So most of the time during slavery, they were easy to catch. They were easy, you can catch them. They catch a lot of Mandingo men. I call them my father, I wasn't there, I don't know that story. He said they would catch the Mandingo men and bring them up front, bring them to the sea, bring them to the beaches. So because of this, my father told me, he said, up to now, there are people in the hinterland that are afraid of white people. If you told somebody way in the hinterland that, let's go on the beach, I said, no, the white people will be there. So they don't want to come on the beach. So my dad, and what he was told that a lot of guys up in the hinterland, the people from the seaside, at the time being on the seaside is like being in the city. You live on the sea, you see ships, the guy way in the bush, he doesn't come to the sea, he doesn't know what a ship look like. So if you went back there, you told him about a ship, he might want to come and see the ship, but he can't come for fear he will be captured. All right. So I got an inspiration. My dad talking about Mandingo, so I did the drawing, a dark and handsome man. Mandingo man. Yeah.
Thank you. So we see that even with traditional Catholic education, you're still hearing stories, so the oral histories are coming down to your traditional religions and customs.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to, actually what I want to do, since we have Gennet's artwork up here, I'm going to skip over to you, and if you can explain the painting here. Okay. Is that your piece as well? So, I guess
yes.
This and then the sculpture, so if you kind of take us through your artwork.
Okay. I passed some, I don't know if all of you have this, but it's well explained in here with a little spelling mistakes. Okay, this is, you've heard about what I've been saying, I was moving from here and there. So that is a Blair bird is coming out of me. She already came out of me. So I stayed. I just have to tell you what kind of materials. It's carpet pad. And when I was pulling it from trash can, this guy came out. I said, "Why are you pulling stuff from the trash? I will give you a brand new canvas." I say, "No, this is what I need." So it is. So what I did is, and that's why I have this. That's why I wear this one. This design is. This is not as beautiful. The Ethiopian dress hem is, but I used those design on the pants from my background, which I saw that every day while I was growing, and that's what they dress with, a white sash type of thing our mothers used to wear. So what I did is I covered that part and I spray painted it. So it's a found. I'm a risk taker. I like to do things, nothing out of nothing. I want to make something. I've been a risk taker, and it is good to be a risk taker sometimes. And this one right here is this. I found this tree trunk also. So I didn't talk a lot about my artwork. I didn't have time, but I will tell you right now. And then again, my art for me is more for me, only for me, for Gennet. I'm more into ideas than materials. I look for ideas, and when I have the idea, I chase for something that can fit my idea. So I found this just perfectly, because it's just I need to get up because it's not you probably cannot see it. It's well explained over there, and it's always birds. So this is myself. That one is my self-portrait also. This one is my. If you look at it very carefully, it looks like me. So this lady is me, and these are the burdens all around me. Like, we all have burdens. We have worries, we have troubles, we have it. See there, they surrounded me, these figures, the two of them. And they are connected, and they are my past and future. See, this is where we go wrong. We cannot, most of the time, I had a hard time, but you know what? It's not gonna break, but it is. I think it's telling me that you have to separate your past from your future, because whenever we go back and look, it is a stumble, a stone. Unless we jump over it, and it will trap us and leave us somewhere. So these all are my burdens. So you see them, right? You see two figures up, and so I always symbolize birds. You see birds in all my work, and I have only 3 for samples, but you see birds and eyes. Do you see birds and eyes in here?
Yes.
So eyes, I use eyes. I used to use eyes a lot, because it is told to be window. So I don't care what you do. This is our main communication. I can speak to you. We can without speaking. All I have to do is look at you. I'm happy about it. This is what we do. So I'm a risk taker. I take everything. I like junk. So I go to, whenever I...
But you transform that junk.
Yeah, yes. I like to do something out of nothing. I wasn't happy. There was a car crash, and something fall out of it. It was a bumper. I wasn't happy about it. I'm sorry, but I have to pick it up. I was right after them, and whenever I walk around, people think, why is she picking up this? Why is she picking up that? So that's it. And I'm gonna, I didn't mention one thing. I really have to mention this. As a foreigner, when we come out of our country, it is not, it wasn't an easy ride. It is okay now. But like in Jackson State, when I was going to school, I used to starve, me and my friend. To get here, we did a lot. We starved the whole day and we eat only one meal at night. But we smiled on campus like everybody. We dressed good.
Right.
It is, you know what? I don't care what you say. There are differences in people, but this country is the richest country. There are differences. The differences who can solve? Only those leaders like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. If we need freedom, do it. He did it the way I wanted to do. So finally, my last, I'm not taking up your time. You probably, you know, we've been going on this travel with my past, but what my plan for the future is, I'm gonna change completely my artwork. I'm gonna start anew. I already started, but too many politicians in this world. Too many everything. So I want to live for God. I'm gonna do His. There is only God. Let's not make a difference with it. Let's not say. I know you've been to church. I'm not a preacher. I'm not gonna bore you with. But listen. There is only one mighty God. We all Muslims. You name it. I used to be an atheist. I always wrestle, like Jacob wrestled with God. I wrestle with God. I've been wrestling with Him. Why are you? This is how I talk to Him. Believe me. Why are you creating this poor person? Doesn't have anything to it, and there is someone who's a millionaire who doesn't know what to do with his money. This is, you know what? It is hard even to wrestle with presidents as a politician with crook. I'm sorry, I said crook. Politics is crook to me. It is even hard, but I cannot say I used to think I'm so powerful because I curse God all the time. I say, why? And you know what? I don't know. A lot of people say they listen voices like as Abraham and Jacob and those, but I'm not there yet. But I'm going to school right now, online. I will get there, as Martin Luther King said, I will get there, but he never talks to me. Like a lot of people say, God told me this, God told me to go here, I never heard his voice, but I will one day. But I'm gonna finish with a minute. He never talked to me, but you know what? He talked to me in so many ways. I came from the poorest country in Africa. Ethiopia is poor, I have to be honest with you. But believe me, go on the internet now. There are people who live in their own house with an elevator. This is how Africa is. One is, you know what? Those people, can I just take 2 minutes? Some people, they were so poor, like the hotel, they don't want to give them anything, they throw things. And They are so poor. For one, we do this when we eat. When some of you would know, we eat with our finger. They are so poor. They go somewhere where there is food, or for one, open your mouth.
Yeah.
For one bite, they have to pay. So in order to survive. I'm not saying Ethiopia is completely rich. You know what? The sixth richest person is in Ethiopia right now. He's a billionaire, multi-billionaire. He's helping the country, but not. I just want to talk a little about my country also. Even though it's the poorest country, it's been said that Ethiopia will stretch her hand. She's stretching her hand, and I'm stretching my hand with her. So it's a very historical country, a lot, and I don't want to go to a country, I don't want to go, and am I finished?
We're going to come back. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. What we're going to, moderator's privilege is that I saw two photographs that I'd like to ask Ebrima about, and then we're going to open it up for question and answer, so we want to get your response as well. But Ebrima, I would love to know more of, they were upstairs, okay. Silent Warrior and Power of Mama Africa.
I saw that.
Okay. All right, well, before I answer your beautiful questions, I'd like to let y'all know again about food, clothing, and shelter. Again, the inspiration started off with us being on a flux, and you can't only show the problem, you also have to show the solution.
Yes.
And so the solution to the problem is urban farming, going again back to the ancestral wisdom. And it's been in the making for 10 years. And every year I will spend my own hard-earned dollars on it. Could have sent that money to mama in Africa. But it's very crucial that some of us don't just come here and rely on just our profit, making our profit and getting out of here. So some of us have to do this sacrifice and do this work. So right now, we're re-editing this film and it's almost finished, almost to post-production. I'd had it to 40 minutes where Amnesty International and other outlets have showcased this film. But now that we're working on it, we're trying to round it all up so that we could share it with our brothers and sisters in America, in England, in Africa, South America, everywhere we may be, because we're in the same situation, but also we could enhance and better our own lives through art, technology, and everything that we could share. Well, Silence Warrior, that's a photograph of a good friend of mine named Kamal. And Kamal in Swahili means silent warrior. And this brother to me really fit his name because he's one of those resistors that I know ever since I came to Atlanta that will wear one uniform or clothing and never participated too much from people that you call outlaws. Just since the system or the way of life that's designed today in place doesn't fit their lifestyle, so they stay out of this box. And so a lot of people might consider them to be homeless or worthless or whatever, these stereotyping and profiling. But these are some of the most strong people that upholding and maintaining the universal rhythm. You know, and so Kamal, if you see that this brother got a beard, a big lock that grows all the way down to his waist, you know, and if you could grow, that symbolically it represents resistant. You know, you have your hair like that. Resistant against what? What makes you, you know, resist to the point that you wear one piece of clothes and let your hair grow. And so these are people that needs to be questioned. And Kamal is one of those. Somebody might want to talk to him. You might get a good story out of Kamal. Silence warrior. He was born here in America, and he's one of the subjects of slavery. And I get a whole lot of interesting story if you ever meet Kamal. He lives here in Atlanta. to tell you a whole lot. Power of Mama Africa. Well, again, like I told y'all about my grandmother, you know, she was a very powerful woman and a virtuous woman. And I could say that about her because she showed it to me. You know, all she was worried and concerned about was her farm and her compound. She kept the yard clean. We sweep the yard, front yard and backyard. And there wasn't no concrete over it, it was just sand. But guess what? All them leaves dropping off the trees and whatnot, Grandma will sweep front and back. Left the place nice and clean. And she will be a witness to that. She's from Africa. That's how they did it. Right. I remember one day, me and my friends dressed going to school. And one of my neighbors, he always liked to jump over the fence and go climb my grandma mangoes and steal these mangoes, because grandma had some sweet mango. And we just going to school, catch the school bus, he looked at us, he said to the neighbor, Ablai, this is my friend, young friend. He said, look at you, all these kids dressed up going to school, you most likely about to go steal somebody's mango. You see, so he told him, but if you steal my mango, make sure you also pick that leaf off the ground. And every Friday, she was Muslim. Every Friday, she was dressed on her very fine clothes. That's the only day I'll see her dressed up, very nice. And she'll come pick us, the grandkids, take to the masjid and pray and this and that. And also I would go see her in the fields, and she would, in a remote place, and she would drop all these stories in my ears, you know. I'm still reflecting on some of those stories. And how she used to fill all our pockets with roasted peanut, you see. And she sold peanuts at the school entrance to kids and other people. And she was able to save half of her money to pay for her own pilgrimage to go to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, which her daughters ended up putting the rest of the money. She had 9 beautiful daughters. But again, you know, just that purity of things, you know, that self-reliance, you know, just the strength, the power that the black woman holds. And she taught everybody. And even here in America, I would prove that, and I would say every advanced European in America was raised by a black woman.
Amen.
The president, you name it. Because if their parents had slaves, there was a black woman in that house that taught you, cooked for you, did all that stuff. So I just wanted to honor, you know, our mothers. And sometimes I even want to remind my own mother of her mother.
So you all have been very enriched. I'm sure you have some questions. You're just on the edge of your seat you want to ask.
I do.
Someone? Yes.
I want to go back to Pascal's. What year were you there? And can you tell me a little bit about your exhibit and how you felt?
Okay, it was, oh my God, I have to look it up. It is in the early 80s, if I didn't mention it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The early 80s. It is with, I have the invitation, but I will talk to you about it later on.
Thank you.
I have the invitation card, and I'm glad you asked, because it stays in my heart. It made a mark.
Tell me about the feelings.
I beg your pardon?
Tell me about the feelings.
The feeling is, as I said earlier, it's just Martin Luther King touched my heart. Whenever we read the story back home, I used to cry. Because he's my mentor, and if you give your life to someone, if you love that person, that's how much I love him and respect him for what he did. So it was a privilege for me to walk on the ground he walks on. And he used, I heard, I don't know, and then again, I don't know, they told me Martin Luther King used to hang around at Pascal's. And it should be, I'm sure it is true. So I was privileged to do that art show, and I'll tell you the year and with what group we went to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Someone else?
Yes, I'd like to first of all applaud the Hammonds for producing this event. And I think I'm thinking somewhat anthropologically in reference to all of human history being at a pivotal moment, particularly here in America, when it is so accessible to find bridges connecting America and certainly African Americans with Africa. I want to initially acknowledge also the artist who said that art is life, and to give us a springboard into all this. I want to reference also that great artist, activist Harry Belafonte, who recently here in Atlanta said that the only way to, it is only through art that you truly know God. And so taking that statement and looking at our concern with religion and politics and these bridges we have with Africa, and listening to the presentations we've heard, one of the things Bekele did, I don't know if she shared with you, but her country is known as the one group of African people who were never colonized. And I'm drawing that connection with her identification with the bird, and obviously she's a dear friend of mine, and we've known each other since our years at Howard University. She first impressed me in the fact that she was such a small little lady, and she was working on a huge sculpture that many of the males wouldn't touch. And so I'm connecting that with some of this sense of freedom, I think, we might be witnessing in terms of identification with the bird. And also drawing some parallels with Liberia and its historic connection with America as one of the places that many of the politicians early on in our history saw as an answer to the slavery problem here, because it was a way to send them back and get rid of the problem. So I'm really grateful to hear from a Liberian's perspective some of what that's like to be that person and be identified in that context. Question. For the photographer, are most of your subjects American-based Africans? And I raise that question because we're hearing you share what you're sharing, and as far as I'm concerned, whenever we talk about African Americans and America and Africa, underneath there, the spiritual aspect has to do with ideas of freedom and ideas with identification, self-definition. And I'm just wondering if you might share with us an answer to that. Are they Africans, say, born in America, American-based? And can you connect that with this notion of freedom, spiritual freedom, this idea of a sense of self-identification, and connecting that with the Ethiopian notion, not notion, but reality, in terms of being connected with who they are, drawing that connection around to Christianity, since we're talking about religion and politics, and the thumbprint of a Christian experience that has essentially been transferred to a people versus one that is authentically embryonic from that culture. Ethiopia, you know, it suggested that some of the oldest Jews, that's the birthplace of Judaism, as well as some of the earliest remnants of Christianity. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
That's a lot.
But it's essential, I think, to the thing. And, you know, I think it's a sin for us to have an invitation to something so deep and only scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We need a panel too. But Ebrima, do you want to help?
Well, you know, I'll say as much as I know. You know, again, the reason why, the first place I'm inspired to get on the journalism tip is that I also believe that, you know, we are from very knowledgeable people. And some of the most very early institutes were from us. And so we educated from people, you know. And I personally believe that everywhere there's us, there's also one of us that's bright and sharp and documenting some of the finest things that happen in his neighborhood. You see, and the sense of us uniting is a whole old history. You know, as she has said in the beginning of the panel discussion with Marcus Garvey and Malcolm and Martin and Patrice and, you know, all the sense of us, you know, for us to unite and come together. And with Haile Selassie, if you look at the people, blacks from the Caribbean, mainly from Jamaica, they were very impressed with the Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. One, because he was a very, I don't know, because I wasn't in Ethiopia, but I'm talking about what he has shown to these people outside of Ethiopia. To them, he was a very upful man, an upright man, and spoke well, and spoke very knowledgeably. And so, it gave those brothers and sisters in Jamaica sense of blackness, what it's like, you see. And so similar elders have also showed up in different areas in Africa and taught on the same level of unity and spirituality, because we are spiritual people, again, having a physical experience, you see. And so everywhere that we at, my job is to introduce this thing what I call street journalism, which is the model and paradigm of journalism, which our stories cannot be for profit anymore. Stories has to be compelling, has to come from your heart, you see? And that's how we are taught. That's why these black kids walking around here telling you, keep it real. You gotta keep it real, because we kept it real. Grandma, grandpa kept it real with them in the house. So when they come out of that house and you wanna get their ears, you gotta keep it real with them. That's right. And so that's the time we're in right now. And so street journalism is gonna play a major role in the bringing of some of the finest things that we do around this planet, which include art, religion, politics. I am not of a big I'm not into politics, even though I did one of my finest documentary at the inauguration of Barack Obama, because I was over there and I saw millions and millions of people together, no fights, no police arrests, on the one accord, change. And so as a journalist, I had to be part of it. And so I was in there talking to people from all over the planet. Why they were there, how they feel, and some of the joyful things you should hear what they say. And so people, they talk to me, and I'm sure they talk to other street journalists that got those similar insights and gift to be able to talk to everybody, whether you're Hebrew, you're Muslim, you're Christian, whatever you may be. Like the sister said, it's only one God, it's only one truth, and it's only one righteousness. And so your pastor is supposed to teach you that one truth, that one righteousness. Your imam is supposed to teach you that one righteousness. Your mentor or your Buddhist monk, wherever you study from. And so righteous children everywhere can get along. Thank you. Hope that answered your question.
I think we really have a very deep, really deep forum that we're expressing the surface. I happen to be, I'm from Kenya. I live in Ethiopia, I live in West Africa. I'm here as a man that came here with a purpose. My purpose is to connect. I know Ebrima personally, and I'm glad that all of us are here. But I guess we really needed a way of really connecting. We're asking a big question on a very small forum. So spirituality is the essence of being. So we have to see the inculcation, the value of what culture puts into the values of a person and how that connects with the context. So it is deeper than the surface we're scratching here. But what I can say right now, though, having traveled, having lived here, I know that this is actually a point in time that all of us are seeking to identify ourselves. One of my point of contact was we are at a crossroad in search of an identity for development. So all of us are here at this pivotal time, really stretching, like my sister kind of depicts, we're stretching ahead. So Kamau, by the way, I'm from Kenya, so the struggle in Kenya, with the help of Ethiopia, it was a time when we were being defined by everybody else. We didn't have a country, we lived in a land which belonged to other people. But we knew a brother up north, that was Ethiopia, who kind of overlooked on our being there. So when we went to the First World War, we were carrier corps. We only carried whatever they asked us to carry. When the brothers came home from that war, they had ideas about lands over everywhere. So they had that kind of understanding. Ethiopia was always free now. That is, Kenya was Ethiopia then, part of it. Somalia was. So the idea is, yeah, even Africa was. The idea is that the Second World War for us was a my uncle and my other uncle went there. When they came back, they asked one question: where is the land?
Right.
Where did the land go?
Right.
We were I'm a minister, even right as I speak. We were praying. We were praying, and as we were praying, when we opened our eyes, we were put in shackles, and we were taken away, put in reservations. So the question which still rings is, where is the land?
Right.
So that's why we formed the Land and Freedom Army, and then from there on, it was so difficult for them to rule, and then we had our independence with Kwame Nkrumah and everybody else. It was a movement which started way in England, came over to Africa with the help of everybody else on the center of Ethiopia, and the brothers, Marcus Garvey and everybody else. The movement still is on. So as we speak right now, though, that's why I brought one of the men that was here, is one of my friends. I wanted to show him what we are doing here for a reason. So we are moving right now, ushering a new age. In Senegal, my friend Abdoulaye Wade has made a big monument, African Renaissance. So what I'm saying here is, Kevin should help us. This is a microcosm of a macrocosm, if it makes any sense. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Charles.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I have a question to the panel. Growing up here in America, or whatever, and I'm just from a small humble town in Alabama.
You got a name in town?
Anderson, Alabama. But growing up here in America, and my question to you guys is very interesting. I definitely feel this point, but my question is about bridging the gap. I went to a college, wonderful open-minded college, Berea College in Kentucky, many different African students, and I learned a lot too. I broke the veil of ignorance that was over my eyes. But one thing that I realized really hurt me, especially traveling to West Africa, went to Ghana, all along there, and then coming back to America, and trying to reconnect some of these things with other African brothers and sisters from Kenya to Tanzania, wherever. Trying to make that connection between African and African Americans, and this is such a powerful thing because we're here interacting, but on a college campus, back home in Anderson, Alabama, many places throughout the country where I've been and traveled, that disconnect is there. And when I was in Ghana, it was so interesting because I was in a village called Brobriano, and I heard 50 Cent playing, 50 Cent's music playing over the loudspeakers, and I was like, that doesn't define me. That's not who I am as an African American. And those perceptions and being flipped, and even when I was in classes in school, and African Americans say, well, to be a man in Africa, you have to kill a lion. So ignorance like that's real. So if we're gonna have that cross-cultural understanding, especially just what some of our ancestors did, your Stokely Carmichaels, your Dr. Kings, your Malcolm X's, trying to think of things in terms of the African diaspora. My question to you is, how can we bridge that gap? And then on another smaller question, but it's in the grander scheme of things as far as religion, I think it's because that gap has been bridged so much because of imperialism, but an imperialism of images as well. When I was in Ghana, everywhere I saw images of a white Jesus. Nothing against anybody's religion, but I saw images of a white Jesus, and I asked myself while I was in Ghana, wow, I'm in a country that is 99.9% black. 99.9% black. But these images are everywhere. In the name of the businesses, in Jesus' name, pineapples, in Christ maize, or whatever. So all of these images that further bridge the gap, and I don't think that's unintentional, if I could just be honest. So my question to you guys as artists is very direct. How can we bridge that gap? I'm open-minded. I can sit down and talk with you. I can share with you. But there are so many people in Anderson, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Louisville, Kentucky, who don't interact with each other in a diasporic sense. And don't forget the people in the Caribbean and all these other things. And I really feel a lot of your passion, the young man right here. But I'm just trying to figure out how can we bridge that gap through an artistic standpoint, because we are, people don't really understand, but I try to tell people all the time, music affects us differently. It's part of our culture. Arts, they affect us differently. So how are even you guys as artists, do you consciously think about how we can bridge that gap to where we can move forward as a diaspora as a whole, just like some of the ancestors were trying to do before, because we do come from the same people?
And I'm going to let Naplah start us off with a response, because Naplah, you actually have 50 Cent on your website. So he has, it's not here in the exhibit, but he has an image of 50 Cent, so I want you to start us off.
Yeah, well, let me talk about that 50 Cent thing. It's only his image. You see, as an artist, you see images and you're like, I'm going to paint this one. His image is appealing to me, as an artist. So I just thought I should have a painting of 50 Cent. But as far as what he's talking about, look at what just happened in my country. I just forgot his name, but I think he was the former owner, maybe owner of BET. Yeah, he went to Liberia. There's a place called Gennet. Gennet happens to be where all the Liberian culture, different culture, different ethnic groups, go over there and perform. We got different stuff you want to know about Liberia. You want to know about different tribes. You go to Gennet. It is right there. You read about everything. But the president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, sold Gennet to the BET owner or former BET owner, and he broke down the place. He made way for hotels. Yeah, he made way for a very large hotel that I was told he put up there. Okay, well, so these are some of the problems we have in the country. Now here's the thing. Long time ago, the African American, I shouldn't say African American, the American Liberians and the natives. American Liberians, you have to be an American Liberian to go to a good school, to go to a very well-known school. If you are native, you can't go to the school the sons and daughters the American Liberians will go to. You can't go there. So over the years, the native boys were changed. I'm only talking about things that affecting our country and still affect our country. For this reason, a lot of people don't travel to Liberia, they travel to Ghana and other neighboring countries in order to study African culture. Very few people go to Liberia because of the American attitude, the kind of presence in our country that what we gather today. So a lot of people don't go there. Okay, so here's the thing. So American Liberian, they go with names like John Peabody. These are African boys I'm talking about, but they are American Liberian. John Peabody, John Parker, the Smith. These are names that if you went to register at a school called Sierre, which is known as College of West Africa, that's the American Liberian school. They built that school. Well, native boys can go there. So if I went there, or some other native went there and said, my name is Flomo, they would say, what? No. You can't come to this school. Your name Flomo, you can't attend this school. So Flomo will have to go, find a way, change his name, maybe to a Peabody, and come to that school. And then he would be accepted in the school. But as soon as you get to know that Flomo is the son of a native, Flomo is going to go out of the school. They will put you out, first of all, for lying. You're not American Liberian. You're Flomo, you're a native, and you came to the Sierre school. They would not allow it. So I know over the years, I always hear people say we live what we learn. So for me personally, I don't blame the people much because these are things that were done to them over here. So they lived that way here, and they went home and began to do the same to the natives over there. So for these reasons, over the years, there have been confusion in my country. So as far as he's saying, you know, how can we bridge the gap? There have been confusion in my country over the years. The American attitude has taken over Liberia. Everything is hip hop right now. You go to Liberia, it's hip hop. It first started off with James Brown. Everything was James Brown. There were every Tom, Dick, and Harry, James Brown, and Michael Jackson, all over the place. How do we bridge that gap? It's going to be very difficult. It might start in other African countries, but for Liberia, it will be pretty hard. I'm telling you about Liberia. This is a hardcore. This is a country that believes deeply in America. We talk about Liberia. So bridging that gap, I don't know. Maybe.
How has it been with the new president? So so this is our only country that's led by a woman.
Yeah, same thing. Over the years, we've had a lot of male presidents in Liberia. And the first native president we ever had since we went through all the American Liberians era, I'll name all the presidents. You will not hear a native man name starting with a guy called the first guy, because we were told that over the years at the time on the president were named here, they were selected here and sent to West Africa, to that tiny country Liberia. Joseph Jenkins Robert, Stephen Alley Benson, Daniel B. Warner, James S. Payne, Edward J. Raw, Attorney W. Gardner, Alfred F. Russell, Hillary R. W. Johnson, Joseph J. Chisholm, William D. Coleman, Garrison W. Gibson, Arthur Barkley, Daniel E. Howard, Charles D. B. King, Edwin J. Raw, Anthony W. Gardner, Alfred F. Russell, Hillary R. W. Johnson, Joseph J. Chisholm, William D. Coleman, Garrison W. Gibson, Arthur Barkley, Daniel E. Howard. Then they come back again because second term. So over the years, that American influence has been there in Liberia. It is still there. So there were boys that came over here. You know, there were a lot of folks in Liberia beginning to cause trouble. Just like you see the uprising in the streets here today, people talking about occupying this place or occupying that place. So what the American Liberians did for those boys at the time, they said, you know what, instead of staying here causing all the confusion, trying to cause uprising, we will send you to America to go to school. So these boys came over here for school. So then they calmed the situation, but not knowing, they just calmed the situation on that end. But the fact that they came over here, they were learning, they were reading. After graduation, they went back home. And then the confusion started again. So when they went back home, it was confusion over the flag. Look at the Liberian flag. Take a look at it, close look at the Liberian flag. It's an American flag. So the natives are saying, no, this flag doesn't represent us at all. Look at the Liberian seal. The writing on the seal says, the love of liberty brought us here. For all the natives are saying, no, it didn't bring me. I was here when you came. Yeah. Well, at first the native didn't know that. But when the boys came and they learned and they went back home, then they, that sensitized them. That when they came up with it, they said, well, this flag is not supposed to be. When I went to America, I saw this flag. This is the American flag. So how come you're saying this is our flag? Look at the police uniform. If the police uniform is just a replica of the uniform here. Look at our counties. Go to Sinai, Mississippi, it's Louisiana. These are cities I'm naming in Africa, in Liberia, Mississippi, Louisiana. There's Virginia, there's Maryland. All these things in Liberia. So over the years there have been confusion and a lot of fights about these things we have fought. So Sooner or later, they came to agree that, well, what we're going to do, we're going to do away with all the male president. I think that is one of the reasons why Ellen Johnson Sirleaf won the vote. That's how she became a president, because a lot of people got fed up with the confusion over the years, and they thought a lady might make a difference, but there's still confusion in Liberia. So as far as he's saying, you know, how can we bridge that gap in Liberia? Oh no, it's hard, it's very hard.
I'll tell you how we're going to bridge this gap. Again, like I said, with street journalism, on my card it says, we are creating love and passion for humanitarian causes through the revelation of documentation. But then with Africa, with blacks, y'all gotta excuse me, you know, I'm gonna be a little more radical than that. I might feel like Malcolm a little bit. But like he said about the occupy this, occupy that. Well, those occupy kids, guess what they talking about? Them same European kids. They talking about destroying this whole system. They talking about it gotta fall. And once it fall, those blacks in Africa gonna fall with it too, including Liberia. Now remember, Charles Taylor was a CIA agent. He worked for the CIA, then broke out of a jail in Boston, then went to Liberia and killed uncountable amounts of souls. Because he don't like himself and he don't like blacks. Straight forward, just like that. And hip hop, I love hip hop. Hip hop started off, how did hip hop start? Think about it. And go read some of Dr. York material. And he teach you about sounds and vibrations and movements and how they turn around these frequencies and just decipher our sounds for us and give us bad sound. And that's the bad sound you hear on the radio and all that they're talking about. But guess what? When they took hip-hop out of the brothers and sisters from their peer of creation, well, other people outside of America, they picked it up and they are changing their life through that tool, hip-hop music. And it's gonna come right back around here again. And all that foolishness that's on the radio, that's gonna be destroyed too. And all them books in Africa that's teaching them about history, that's not theirs. I'm a victim. I went to school, I was taught to speak English, eat English, laugh English. But when I went to England, I had problems. Matter of fact, they told me I wasn't welcome over there. But they told our parents were British citizens. But when we start flooding into England because we don't have no jobs and we ain't in the fields no more, English people feel like they've been invaded. And so the laws has to change. And the question that brother asked there, I have hundreds of friends, blacks, that ask the same question. And we're going to make sure we bring all of this together. If we can't destroy it, we will form a new one. But one thing we cannot do, we cannot reproduce the same old system that left us in this predicament and thinking that we could do a better job. And so we have to not only, again, politically or economically successful, because like he said, the richest man right now lives in Ethiopia. But half of Ethiopia is starving, drought. Now what kind of success is that? Huh? You're successful, but your neighbors are suffering. And you're able to look at them, and you got a heart, you got a soul. That's not black.
That's right.
The real blacks that I know, when they eat, their neighbors eat.
Amen. Item to the table.
Right. That's the kind of blacks that raised me up. And so everybody's going to go back to their true self. We're going to stop looking from everywhere else and start looking within ourselves. And God is already helping us, because a lot of stuff we are doing, we don't have the means or the resource, supposedly, even though we were put on the best part of the land with all the resources, and it's not helping us. Nigeria got oil. I was born at a place where we kick diamonds around. You know what I'm saying? There's all kind of resources out there. But since we are not in our right mind, we can utilize these resources, not home, not abroad. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to go back again to tradition. Like Elijah Muhammad told us, we have to eradicate this thing out of our mind and put what's us in there. And that's gonna help us and our babies. Because you don't want to raise your baby and he go to England or somewhere, France, and he's not welcome there. And now he start fighting for freedom. Oh yeah, we got a match. We've been doing that ever since. When is the black child gonna have the chance to be? Ask yourself that.
Sister Deb, sorry, did you want to say anything about bridging the gap? About bridging the gap, did you want to add anything to?
Reaching the gap. It's only God who's going to reach that gap. And I can tell you there are so many gaps that we have to fill.
Yes.
The only way we can win is pray. He answers prayers. See, I would not been here. The struggle I went to, the trials in this country, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't. Even though I was fighting with him, he said, "You fool, you're fighting with me. I created you." But so that's all I can say. There are so many gaps to fill. We're worried about the kids wearing their pants down there. Let them wear it, as long as they cover the little part of it. Yes. There are so many things we need to worry. You know what? It is not their pants. I mean, I wish they changed it. I'm not saying totally. There are so many gaps to be filled, and we're sitting here worried about the kids' pants. How about the poor in the ghetto in Los Angeles? I've been everywhere. I've seen everything. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
And I apologize. I'm being told by Hammonds House we have to cut the. If you have other questions, we'll stay here and answer them. But we have to cut the tape and draw it into the program. We thank you. This has been a lively discussion, and hopefully, because of what was said, the museum might have a panel too, because we do need to talk more. Thank you again for coming, and again, the information on the voice is up here.
All right. Before everybody leave, we're gonna have to finish.